Today on Here for the Right Reasons, Ivan Hall reveals how much hometown dates change the contestants' state of mind.
Your family knows you best, I feel like. So they can, reinforce things or, make you kind of question things as well. So it all depends on your family dynamic.
Plus, Thurston breaks her silence on her breakup with John and why she really blocked Nick Viall. And Peter Weber defends Nate. Clayton and Susie Evans are going to be living separately. And Wells Adams and Sarah Hyland finally tie the knot. And it's Hometowns Week. We break down all the highs and the lows from meeting the families. We got that plus so much more on today's Here for the Right Reasons. Hey guys, Christina Garibaldi here with Us Weekly Deputy Editor Sarah Heron. Sarah, we made it to Hometowns and damn, I wouldn't want to be Rachel meeting Tino's family.
Oh my God, I'm still not over. Like my heart was beating so fast for her. We have so much to talk about. And also so much Bachelor Nation news. They were out this weekend on podcasts and in real life.
Yes, a lot to get to, but let's check in and see what some of the people had to say about last week's show. A lot of people had a lot of comments about Nate.
Yes. So this was all about how Nate on, obviously, Team Gabby was eliminated. And then these women came out and said that they were like he was dating both of them at the same time. And one of them alleged that they dated for a year and a half and never met Nate's child or knew that Nate had a child. So Kelly weighed in on that. And she said, as a single parent in the past, I didn't let people meet my child. How many, quote, uncles create a skewed idea of relationships? And we kind of said that's a really good point. Obviously, you as a single parent have to be careful with who you are introducing to your kids. But to not know he had a child is a little weird.
Right. Definitely weird. Ellie says, oh my God, Bennett's right. He would be a great as the senior Bachelor host. Is that show happening? During our interview with Ben, he said that he would love to host the senior version of The Bachelor. I feel like we saw ads about this for years and just nothing ever came to fruition about it. So I don't know if it's even still in the works.
I don't either. I think it's like always in the back of their mind. I think it's like Robert Mills and Mike Fleiss's like dream, but like the cast is difficult. In COVID, I'm sure that made things much more difficult. Obviously, maybe more like high risk contestants, just by age. I don't know. I think there's probably a lot of reasons it hasn't happened yet, but I'm hoping that one day.
I'd watch. I definitely would watch. All right, well, let's get into our Bachelor news of the week. And Thurston opened up on Kaitlyn Bristow's Off the Vine podcast. She talked all about her breakup, why she blocked Nick. She definitely spilled some tea, and it seemed like, well, she said, John was the one to pull the plug on the relationship, and she was kind of pissed because she did all this stuff for him, bought him all these things, went on all these skydiving adventures, and he said that he just wanted somebody that was a little bit more lined up with what he wanted. He wanted somebody to surf with him, Sarah.
Christina, that was so weird. And Katie, God bless her for, her candidness. As I always say, thank you for your service, Katie Thurston, from start to finish. However, she was insisting she's over it. I don't think she's over it. The way she was bringing up very specific things and that would move on quickly. I don't think she's actually over it. She confirmed that John was the one to break up with her. Yes, she went on this weird thing about how, he wanted someone to surf with him and wanted someone into his hobbies. And she was like, I literally jumped out of a plane for you. I did make sacrifices for you. And I thought one of her more interesting points was we were friends way before we started dating. So you knew me and you knew what I liked. And I did try new things for you. And then 6 months in, you kind of pulled back and you were like, oh, you're not actually what I want. And that is kind of an interesting point because they did know each other really well. And usually I think she had it in her mind, like, oh, friends first. I finally found the secret. This is it for me. And she was, I think, really sold on the relationship. And she I felt like the rug was ripped out from under her when he ended it.
Yeah. And she said that they actually broke up twice. They broke up once before and nobody knew about it besides their close friends. And she said, when they got back together, she's like, okay, this is great. We broke up, we figured out our stuff, we got back together. And I feel like she thought that this was a very long-term relationship. Didn't she say she bought him a van too? Did I hear that correctly?
She bought him a van and he's living that van life, she said, which is interesting. And then she kind of hinted that he cares a lot more about what other people think. Yeah. And she was pissed that he kind of did a more formal breakup statement after she did her statement, it's done. she was like, he's not going to like this, but I think he cared more. And I was like, oh, okay, Katie.
Somebody's not too happy about this. And then we also found out why she blocked Nick on Twitter.
I think his phone number.
Or blocked his phone number. Okay, so she blocked his phone number. It's really not that dramatic.
Yeah, so basically, as we know, Katie like hinted on TikTok Live or said on TikTok Live, like she doesn't think about Nick Viall because he's blocked, and that clip went viral. And then you had Nick and his girlfriend Natalie like react to it and, you know, kind of shade Katie and say she blocked Nick because she didn't want to like text him things she didn't, you know, want anyone to know. And then Katie kind of finally addressed it more head on and was like, I found out that he was like she alleged that he was reading her private text messages to other people or showing them to people. I guess Katie and Nick would text about the show. I'm sure, you know, we know Nick gives advice. He has alums on his podcast. And then he was allegedly showing people these messages, which pissed her off. And then Natalie, you know, lo and behold, read some of those messages on Viall Files. So it kind of came full circle.
Yeah, not that. I mean, I totally get it. Like if you're sending a private text message, you don't want him showing other people these messages. You don't want Nick's girlfriend reading those private messages on a podcast. I'd be pissed too. So
I know. And it's so funny because Caitlin Bristow was like low-key agreeing with her.
Yeah.
And Caitlin and Nick have their own rocky relationship. Obviously, if you watch the show, you watched their romantic relationship play out. And then they feuded for a little bit when she was still with Sean. But then they all kind of made amends. And at Wells and Sarah's wedding this weekend, which I'm sure we'll get into, they were all there. And Caitlin joked about her table, which had Chris Harrison, Chris Soules, Ben Higgins, Nick Viall. She was like, throw in Sean Booth. It would have been a party. And like, I'm like, it's so wild.
It's so wild. These circles that the Bachelor Nation stay in. But, you know, Katie did, you know, spill some tea. So like you said, she's always willing to talk about it. And now she really can. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot more of this.
Yeah, she hinted that like she's still having some contract issues, but like she's like, I'd like that I could do this podcast. So and she still kind of gave a little bit of digs at the show. So, you know, time will tell. Someone get Katie Thurston that book deal because I feel like it's necessary.
I need it. I need to read. Well, another former Bachelor making news this week is Clayton, right? I mean, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird one. It needs to be dissected. Clayton Echard, he revealed that him and Susie are no longer living together for much longer. This was on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast. He said, we're like, quote, we don't know if it's going to be a month-long relationship from here or if it's going to be a lifetime, but there's no pressure. Let's just love each other and be thankful. We're very, very happy right now in a really great spot. But yeah, we went through it together though. Thankfully, she's been by my side. That's the only reason I can sit here with so much positivity is because of her. He went on to explain that he is moving back to Scottsdale, Arizona. That's where his brother lives. It's where he lived when the show was airing. And Susie is going to live in Los Angeles with a friend. He said, while people might look at it like, oh, they're separating, he insisted that's not the case. A little distance never hurts. This obviously kind of rocked Bachelor Nation, and people were like, is this just like a soft launch breakup? Susie immediately was kind of responding to TikTok comments, and she was like, oh, I don't know, is it? Like joking with people, and they made a TikTok literally like reacting to it. So when I first read this and I listened to Clayton's interview, I agreed that I was like, what is happening? This is a really weird step to take. But then they always kind of get in on the joke, these two. So like, I don't know. What do you think?
It's like, are you playing with us? Like, are you just like messing with us? But no, it definitely seems like this is a step back in their relationship. Obviously, you know, it does seem like this is one step closer to a breakup, but they seem to kind of be in on the joke now and making jokes about it. I really don't know what to make of this. Like, I would think like if you're living with somebody and now you're not, like, that's not really the best thing for a relationship. Right.
And they kind of tried to explain like Clayton, I guess they're living in Virginia Beach together and they both work from home, or she travels for weddings. But when they're both home. And he's like, you're sitting next to each other on a couch for 10 hours a day, whatever. So they wanted maybe, and he's like, she was just away for a wedding and it was like so exciting for her to come back. And I'm like, I get it. And I get like these relationships move pretty fast, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it feels like going backwards. They said it's only a 15-minute flight between where she'll be in LA and where he'll be in Scottsdale. And eventually the goal is to get both of them in Scottsdale if like he finds a house or something. Yeah. But if you're in like the honeymoon stage of your relationship and you don't want to be around each other all the time, what makes you think in how many years are going to want to, which I guess they kind of said they're not planning on. Right. Whatever they're going day by day. I mean, good for them, but by telling us all of this, it is opening up an interesting conversation.
Yeah. And of course, like, who knows, she might fall in love with Los Angeles and might not want to leave. Like, she's not going to maybe want to go to Arizona. Like, there's a lot of things that can happen. This
makes the heart grow fonder until it doesn't.
Yeah, no, until like, oh, okay, I've got the taste of the LA life. I don't know about Arizona. And I don't know. I don't know how this is really going to work because it seems like a big change going from Virginia back to Arizona to LA. And why not just go to Arizona to begin with? I don't know.
I don't know either. It's weird.
It is weird, but only time will tell.
It certainly will.
Yes. Well, this couple finally said I do after 3 years. Sarah Hyland and Willis Adams are finally married. They got married at an outdoor ceremony. It looked beautiful on August 20th at Sunstone Winery near Santa Barbara, California. She wore a Vera Wang hot wedding dress down the aisle. She changed into this really gorgeous Vera Wang after party look. She was married by Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who was obviously her Modern Family co-star. A lot of Modern Family co-stars were in attendance, including Sofia Vergara, who shared several photos on Instagram. And of course, Bachelor Nation, like you said before, Caitlyn was there, Nick was there, Ben, Chris Soules, Chris Harrison. I mean, who's who of Bachelor Nation. And it looked like a beautiful wedding.
Yeah, Joe was there. Caitlyn Keys was there. Derick Peth was there with his wife. Kind of random, like, because the only Derick I feel like is the only one from like JoJo's season with Wells, and I know he's obviously hosted Paradise. Michael A was there, who's allegedly on this season of Paradise, so him and Wells must have hit it off. It's just so funny to me to think about like just all the royalty of ABC, whether you're on Modern Family. I know there were ABC execs there, the creator of Modern Family was there, was Bachelor producers there, and then all the Bachelor Nation, like it's like from the D list to the A list of ABC.
Right.
Like,
like it's such a wide spectrum. I loved Joe posted some photos as well, and obviously like everybody's like, where's Serena?
That's my social. I can spoil it now.
All right, I won't spoil it then. But yes, no, it was it looked like a beautiful wedding, and like we said, 3 years in the making. They were delayed because of COVID. And good for them. Finally time up
for them. They're like just so cool.
They really are. They're such a cool couple. And who would have thought Wells, who like was so scared to kiss JoJo back on his season, now married to Sarah Hyland.
Good for Wells, man. And I can't wait for Paradise to come back. And now he's, gonna be a married man, and love it.
So excited.
Well, speaking of, as we get into this season, we'll talk a little bit more about Nate, because as we mentioned, he was accused of intentionally hiding his daughter from a past partner. And the Bachelorette alum is opening up a little bit about fatherhood. He captioned a video on Instagram. He took his daughter to Disney. He said, gotta get through the king to get to the queen. He shared footage from their plane ride before they arrived at the park. They met Cinderella. He captioned the video to Will Smith's Just the Two of Us. And this was kind of an interesting time for him to post, because as we know, Nate can't really share his side of the story as the season's still airing. I'm sure he will at Mental Health, but that didn't stop his BFF Dustin Kendrick and Peter Weber from defending him. Dustin, who has known Nate since middle school, they grew up together in Chicago. He said, listen, first of all, let me just say this. Nate is not an angel. He's not a perfect guy, but I feel like you don't go and try to tarnish someone's name because a relationship didn't work out. It seems childish to me. Peter said, if you're in a serious relationship and you're committed with someone, sure, it's a little weird to not disclose you have a child, but that's not the case. And it seems like that was not. In my opinion, Nate has every right to hold that back until it's the right time. That's totally 1,000% up to him. They got a little bit of heat for their defense of Nate.
What do you think? Do you think that they should?
I mean, I think it's totally their right to want, like Dustin especially, he's known him for a long time and it must be really frustrating, but they kind of like promoted this as like justice for Nate is going to be served, and a little like cocky and whatever. And it's just hard because there was always this side of, are these women telling the truth? Is this like for clout? Why are they coming out? But you also want to believe them to some degree. Like, I don't know what they're getting out of this. I mean, we're talking about them, but I can't even remember their names. Right. If they were doing like press with everyone, I'd be a little more what, but they did have like a lot of DMs. I'm not saying Nate's like a horrible person and you can date people if you want, but it is a little weird to me to date someone even casually for a year and a half and not tell them you have a daughter and then go on national television. And then the first thing you do is talk about your daughter.
No, 100%. That is like a huge, huge secret. And like, if a year and a half later, if you're like, okay, this is the person I want to be with, and you're like, by the way, I've been keeping this secret forever, I'd be pissed and I'd run away. Like, this is not something that you keep. Yes, say right up front, yes, I have a child, but I don't feel comfortable with you meeting them until we're in a serious spot. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It just seems like a really, really weird thing to kind of keep under wraps. But who knows? Next week is Mentel Law, so hopefully we'll kind of get his side of the story, and then we can kind of go from there. But let's get into your Bachelor talk, because I know that you caught up with Ivan and DeMar recently and talked all about hometowns, right?
Yes, Ivan, of course, was on the Claire Tayshia season, had a hometown with Tayshia, and offered his perspective, and also kind of brought up how Brendan on their season hometowns went differently. So it was interesting to hear from someone who has been there before. And here is Ivan.
What's the state of mind for a contestant in this point of view of the journey?
Yeah. For myself, and it varies across the board, but for myself, I remember on my first one-on-one with Tayshia, I told her I'm ready for her to meet my family. Like they're going to love her. I knew hometowns was a thing in the future. And that's because like, I have a very good connection with my family. I talk to them almost every day, and my family and parents did a great job, raising me and stuff. So like, they trust my decision-making. I knew they were just going to go in there, and they were just going to go in there, and support me. And I was just excited that like, I was finding something real, falling in love, and that they got to see this, because I don't really share this with them. And then also just experience this crazy, wild experience of being, at La Quinta during COVID and stuff. So I was just super excited to see them. And then when they all met, it was just, that just reaffirmed everything for me. They were nothing but supportive. I know my parents and Tayshia had great conversations. But like in other situations where like a Brendan, for example, on my season, it was kind of a different thing where I feel like his brother kind of brought him back down to earth. And that's why he led to him self-eliminating. Your family knows you best, I feel like. So they can, reinforce things or, make you kind of question things as well. So it all depends on your family dynamic and things like that. So with 7 hometowns next week, it's going to be an interesting mix of, families not really buying into any of this, because you see that all the time too.
Yeah.
And then some people just being supportive. We love our son. All go for it. So it's always good to see that, dichotomy and mix of things.
Yeah. Never blame the parents, but it's always interesting to see. Cause I'm like, if that was me, I feel like my parents would be like, we don't want to. I'd be one of the ones who had like friends who had to come because my parents would be like, we're not going on this freaking show. But I love seeing the parents and seeing, and fingers crossed that Tino's parents like Rachel, because I don't know what's going to happen if they don't.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. That's the only one that matters, honestly.
Yeah. The only one that matters. Oh no.
We're just going through the motions.
Unless we're all really falling for the edit. It wouldn't be the first time that I was duped by this show, but I really feel strongly about this one.
You are correct. For sure.
Yes, hometowns changes a lot of things, and it definitely did this week. So let's break down this episode. Kicking off with Jason. Everything seemed to be going great, and then he drops this bombshell saying that I'm just not ready to get engaged. Do you think that he should have told her at the end of this date and just being like, I'm not ready to move forward with this?
So here's the thing with Gabby, and I might be wrong. Have we heard Gabby 1,000% say she wants to be engaged?
Very true. I don't think so.
I don't know, but I thought it was interesting because the Johnny Jason was very similar. She seemed pretty into both of them. Both of the families were very all in, which is obviously opposite to what we see a lot of times on this show. So it was interesting to have the families be all in, but the guys kind of be pulling back. The difference, I thought, was Jason kind of said, I don't know if I'm there with Gabby, like the show. Johnny kind of was like, I don't know if I'm there at all.
Yeah.
Does Johnny want to be married? Why did he come on this show? Does Jason want to be married? And now he's just in the process and he's like, oh boy, I don't want. Both of them have a little bit of the element of like, you came on a show that ends in an engagement and you're both uncomfortable with it. Granted, you don't know how far you're going to get, but for me, it read a little bit more like Jason wasn't sure about an engagement on the show and Johnny wasn't sure about an engagement ever.
Oh yeah, no, Johnny was like, and that's the first thing that kind of went through my mind. I'm like, why are you here? You know?
And then you have his dad being like pushing Johnny, which I thought was kind of interesting because you never see that. He's like, you'll get there financially, you got there emotionally. He's like, what?
Right. And then even Jason's mom having like a breakdown and starting to cry about this. I'm like, why are you crying?
He is like going to be devastated if Gabby's not the daughter-in-law.
Right.
So
why are you so upset about this? But yeah, it always, like we've talked about this so many times. It's always so strange to me how some families are all in on this, because my family would be like, get the F out of here. This is not happening.
I think you just need like a middle ground family. Yeah. And I think we'll get into Tino because that was almost too far the other way. Like I feel like they were like laughing in her face and that felt disrespectful to me. But I guess we can just wrap up Gabby with it because Eric's was obviously like the most emotional. So sad. And if you didn't know, his dad did pass away on July 9th, which was probably just they probably filmed this in April or May. So a month or two after, which is so sad, but his family seemed incredibly lovely. and were going through like real life stuff and still made time for this show. And that just like kind of showed that they love Eric. And I don't know, it's hard to not ship Gabby and Eric after knowing like he got to meet her dad. She got to meet his dad.
100%. And you know, it's so hard to not ship them too and want him to be there at the end to like make it seem like this was all worth it. That he like wasn't there like spending all that time with her dad. Like he was meeting the person that he was supposed to be with, and she was able to meet his family. And that's how I feel. I'm like, I really hope that they are there at the end, especially knowing that the other two guys are so hesitant about this situation too. And it seems like Eric is all in. It seems like Gabby's all in on him. So I'm all about them.
It almost just seems too obvious because both the guys are hesitating, first of all. And second of all, Eric said he was falling in love with her and Gabby said it back, and they showed it. And then the same thing happened with Rachel and Tino. Like, it's like they're giving us the answers, which feels wrong. So something's going to have to happen, right?
Something has to happen. I mean, it's too good to be true. And, you know, like Bachelor loves to blow things up in our face. Right. What do you think about Zach? I mean, I do like Zach a lot too. I loved his family. And it seems like if it's not Tino, it's got to be Zach.
Yeah, Zach has always kind of had like a light, easy relationship with Rachel. Like even when they would get like heavy, like crying about planes, there's something about them that feels very like fun and safe. It's so hard when you see her with Tino and like talk about Tino to even like take anything seriously, in my opinion. But I think Zach's a good guy. I think his family was a great example of what you would want in the show. They joked with them about it, but they like they were respectful to Rachel. They, you know, took the process as seriously as you kind of can. Yeah. The guy from Emperor's New Groove and Seinfeld is your uncle. Like, I feel like that was really an ideal what you would want from your hometown date. Like Zach's family killed it.
Yes. And then poor Tyler.
You know, I've cried my own fair share of tears on the Jersey Shore boardwalk. And, you know, we've all been there as Jersey girls. And that was tough. And my biggest takeaway from that was, does he not know social cues? Because he just kept going about how perfect they're going to be.
I love you. And she's like, I'm literally crying in your lap here. Like,
yeah, like that was so confusing to me. And was it just the trigger of like meeting his family with his friends before she thought she was going to? Because it snapped. They were playing games, and then the next minute she was hysterical to a producer. Rachel loves a like producer fourth wall cry.
She does. Yeah, well, and we saw that at Tino's as well. Yeah. I mean, let's get into the Tino of it all, because this was hard to watch. Like you said, it just felt like they were just not supportive of this relationship at all, and supportive of Rachel. And I just love at the end, he's like, they adored you. And she's like, were we in the same room?
I know. I wonder if there's anything we didn't see, because all we really saw was the negative stuff. But I don't know. I do feel like she's like, his mom grilled me, his dad, like I totally get it. And I think even some of the other parents in the episode brought up like, how do you know? Like, you can fall in love. I think it was maybe even Zach's dad was like, you can fall in love with a monkey on this show. You're in the whatever. And at first when he said that, I was like, oh, harsh. But he came around. He listened to her. Like, he was like, be careful, but, you know, keep that in mind. But Tino's parents, I thought, took it a little too far. They really were like laughing at her. And I don't know. I feel bad. And I think it was interesting that he then turned it around, just like, well, I'm in love with you, so it's fine.
Yeah, he's like, let me save this real quick and say I'm falling in love with you. But I think, like, I mean, we see in the teaser that this is really going to put a strain on their relationship, at least it seems like, because like, how do you get engaged to somebody when you know that their parents just kind of really don't like you and don't support this relationship at all?
I know, because especially like imagine leaving that and then calling your parents 2 weeks later and being like, remember that girl who you like kind of made fun of that I was on this show and joked about this fairy tale? Like, fairy tale came true. We're engaged.
We're engaged. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that I mean, because I know my money is still on Tino, but I just don't know if after the fact that this is going to work.
I don't know. I still think she's going to pick Tino, and I think it's going to be that classic, like, you know, my parents are just protective kind of narrative, and we'll see if like after the final rose, if the parents, because also Rachel's dad was like pretty tough.
Yeah. So
that could be an interesting dynamic.
That is true. Oh my God, I can't wait for the parents to meet.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have that on camera. All right, well, let's get into our Bachelor Nation social media moments of the week. Mine went to Eric, you know, when he did a really nice tribute to his dad following the show last night. Showed some throwback photos of his dad, and Rachel actually commented, said, thank you for sharing this moment with all of us, sending your family love, and, you know, obviously an outpouring of love from Bachelor Nation and from viewers alike. So definitely, I'm sure it was a tough thing to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's like beautiful to have that, but also of course hard to watch, and nice that he shared that. And Rachel commented like thinking of you, and a lot of people were tweeting about it naturally. Yeah. My social spotlight went to Joe. Obviously there was so much good content from Sarah and Wells' wedding, but I did like that Joe posted, you know, his carousel of photos, including one of him like pretending that Serena was there, tagged her in it, and Ben Higgins in the comments trolling, where's at Serena, did you break up? And kind of just like tackling that head on because they knew it was coming. And I like when Bachelor Nation does that. And it did make me think, like, I scoured pretty well, and I didn't see Dean Unglert there, and Kaylin Miller-Keys was there. Now, Dean and Kaylin don't follow each other on Instagram, and they never have. They like made it a point to say they never would. I think to eliminate this, like I went back and checked. And they've been, like, he's been talking about her on Help I Suck at Dating in recent weeks and stuff, but I couldn't find any evidence of Dean being there. So if anyone can help me find Dean, I think it's really weird if she was there without him.
That's really weird because I guess that she was friends with Wells from Bachelor in Paradise, but still, like you said,
he probably invited them, like maybe as like the invitation had both their names. It's not like a plus one. But why maybe Dean's on some trip somewhere and didn't want to go, but it feels a little strange to me. And it was interesting that, you know, Joe tackled it head on, and Kaylin posted a bunch of pictures, solo pictures. She posted a picture of Debbie Ryan. I don't know why she was there. I guess she's friends with Sarah. I think whatever. And then posted pictures with like Jess Clark and like Ben's wife and Natalie Joy, Nick's girlfriend. So I would imagine there would be a trace of Dean if he was there. Maybe I just missed it, but I looked.
I know. I'm like looking back at like all of her Instagram photos and her Insta stories. But yeah, no, I don't see it either. Weird. Yeah. Maybe he's on like some fabulous vacation, like he always
Maybe
says.
he's teaching John how to drive a van.
Exactly. They're living the van life. Yeah. All right. Well, Sarah, who's on the podcast this week?
I have relationship expert Dr. Darcy back, and she correctly guessed that Susie and Clayton were going to end up together, which at the time, I'm pretty sure I was convinced he was going to be with Rachel. Yeah. So she knows more than me about relationships on TV and, you know, family dynamics and all that fun stuff. So it should be a good one.
Excited to listen to it. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Here for the Right Reasons. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we will see you next week for one more hometown date and Men Tell All. We are crawling towards the end.
Crazy. I can't believe they didn't just put, like, they could have cut some stuff out. Maybe like cut the Tyler breakup and made it shorter for even, because I'm like going to be out of it and have to watch another one of those. Like, I'm not into it.
Not into it. Over it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next week to break it all down.
Bye.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.